Right now, you are living inside a script, a story encoded not just in your mind, but in your nervous system, in your frequency, in the way you observe reality. The script feels permanent, but it is not. In the quantum field, futures exist as waves, waiting to collapse. The tragedy is that most people replay the same lines, the same roles, the same endings, without realizing they could choose a different scene. But what if today you change the script? What if the timeline you thought was written in stone is actually waiting for you to pick up the pen? You have been told that your life is unfolding on rails, that destiny is a map already traced, impossible to change. The story goes that you were born into a script, and no matter what you do, you will always end up where the lines have already been written. But what if this belief itself is the reason the same story repeats? What if the sense of inevitability is not fate, but the echo of a role you keep playing because no one ever showed you that you could step off the stage? What feels like destiny is often nothing more than repetition. The same story, looping again and again until it carves grooves so deep that you mistake them for the only path available. Think about how automatic it has become. You wake up with the same thoughts that shaped yesterday. You walk into the same emotions that shaped last week. You react with the same patterns that shaped last year. And because this cycle feels so familiar, you call it life. You call it fate. You convince yourself it was always meant to be this way, but the truth is harder and, at the same time, more liberating. The lines you speak are not written in cosmic stone, they are written in memory. They are rehearsed until they feel natural, repeated until they feel permanent. The mind doesn't question them. The nervous system doesn't resist them. The body simply performs them. And soon, the script you never consciously chose becomes the only one you know how to perform. The tragedy is that most people live as actors in a play they didn't write. They were handed a role by culture, by family, by fear, by survival. They memorized the lines of scarcity, the stage directions of limitation, the curtain calls of disappointment. And because no one told them the stage is infinite, they keep performing the same act. Convinced that this is all there is, how many times have you felt the weight of déjà vu, not as some mystical omen, but as the deep recognition that you've walked this scene before? The same arguments, the same failures, the same endings, repeating with different faces. You call it fate, but it is just habit dressed up as destiny, and here is where the quantum perspective shatters the illusion. Your future is not one script already carved in stone. Your future is a library, an infinite archive of drafts that already exist as waves of probability. In this library, there are versions of you who succeed and versions who collapse. Versions who love and versions who remain alone. Versions who walk in abundance and versions who remain locked in lack. They all exist, not later, not someday, but right now. Waiting. But here is the paradox. The draft you live is not chosen by fate. It is chosen by the observer. It is chosen by the signal you embody every single day. Which shelf you reach for depends entirely on the identity you allow to lead. And if the identity you carry is old, if the observer is still trapped in fear, then you collapse the same story again and again. Not because it is the only one, but because it is the only one you are tuned to see. Imagine standing in a vast library filled with books that hold every possible version of your life. Yet you keep returning to the same volume, reading the same chapter, underlining the same passages of pain and lack. Not because it is the only book on the shelf, but because it is the only one your eyes know how to recognize. The tragedy is not that destiny is fixed. The tragedy is that people stop searching for the other shelves. So let me ask you, if your future is already written in infinite drafts, then who is choosing the book you read each morning? Is it the ghost of an old self, clinging to its familiar story? Or is it the new observer, ready to collapse a script that reflects who you are becoming? If you begin to see life this way, the illusion starts to dissolve. What you called fate was never a law of the universe. It was simply the same script, rehearsed until it felt permanent. But permanence is a trick of repetition, not a truth of reality. The quantum field shows us something radically different. Everything exists as possibility until it collapses into form. This is where the science becomes mirror to the spirit. At the subatomic level, particles do not exist as fixed points. They live as waves, as probabilities, as pure potential. They become real only when observed, only when measured, only when attention collapses them into a single outcome. This is the observer effect. And whether you realize it or not, you are that observer. Your focus, your state, your identity. These are the forces that decide which version of reality solidifies around you. So, when you carry the same identity, when you keep embodying the same frequency, you are not simply living your life, you are collapsing the same outcome again and again. Not because the field has no other options, but because your signal has no other broadcast. You are tuned to one station, and so that is the only music you hear. Think of it like a radio. Infinite stations exist right now, broadcasting at once. Jazz, rock, silence, noise, all of them available. But your dial is fixed in one place. You wake up every morning and turn it to the same frequency, so you think that is the only sound the universe has to offer. You say, "This is my destiny," when in truth it is only your tuning. The field is not limiting you. The dial is, the same truth appears in the theater of your life. The stage is infinite. The roles are endless. Yet most actors never step out of character. They play the same role night after night until they forget it is a role at all. They speak lines they never wrote, walk in patterns they never chose, bow at curtain calls they never agreed to. Not because the play is eternal, but because no one told them they could leave the stage and step into another. And here lies the paradox. Your future is already written, yes, but not as one script. It is written as many, as countless drafts coexisting in the quantum field. Which one you experience is determined by who holds the pen. And if the pen is still in the hand of your old identity, you will keep re-signing the same ending over and over again. So the question is not whether the story is written. The question is which version of you is doing the reading. Which observer is collapsing the wave? Which frequency is your body broadcasting right now? This is where most people stumble without ever realizing it. They discover glimpses of possibility. They hear whispers that life could be more. They sense the presence of another script calling them, and yet they remain trapped in the one they know. Not because the field refuses to open, but because they continue to act as though the old role is the only one available. The great error is this: confusing repetition with destiny. The body remembers. The nervous system encodes patterns. The mind loops old dialogues. Day after day, you unconsciously step into the same act, not because it is truth, but because it is familiar. And familiarity is seductive. Even pain, if rehearsed long enough, begins to feel like safety. Even limitation, if repeated often enough, begins to feel like home. So when the signal of a new script begins to rise, when the mask of the old identity starts to crack, resistance appears. The body tightens. Fear whispers. The mind demands proof before it will let go. You say you want change, but you measure it against the language of the old script. You cling to the very story you claim to want to escape. Think about how it shows up. You tell yourself you are ready for abundance, but still check your bank account every morning with anxiety. You tell yourself you want love, but keep rehearsing the wounds that make intimacy impossible. You tell yourself you desire health, but keep returning to habits that broadcast stress and depletion. These are not random contradictions. They are loyalty to the old script. And loyalty keeps the same pages turning even when a new book waits on the shelf. The quantum field has no bias. It is not punishing you. It is not testing you. It is simply responding with precision. If you broadcast fear, it mirrors fear. If you broadcast scarcity, it mirrors scarcity. If you broadcast incoherence, saying one thing, feeling another, acting in contradiction, the field reflects only static. The wave cannot collapse into clarity when the signal is scrambled. This is why so many feel stuck. They think they are asking for something new, when, in truth, they are broadcasting the same old role. They imagine they are writing a different story, but they never stop handing the pen back to the ghost of their old identity. And that ghost has only one script to repeat. Ask yourself, how many times have you mistaken resistance for truth? How many times have you called the tension of change a warning, when it was only the dying voice of the old role refusing to let go. How many times have you returned to the familiar not because it fulfilled you, but because it was predictable? This is the loop. This is the trap. And until you recognize it, the script will not change, not because it cannot, but because you have not stopped performing it. But here is the deeper truth. The error is not permanent. It is not unbreakable. It dissolves the moment you step off the stage, the moment you refuse to keep reciting lines that no longer belong to you. And the way out begins not with effort, not with struggle, but with clarity. Because to change the script, you must first see it for what it is. A role you rehearsed, not a destiny you were condemned to live, and the way out is simpler than the mind believes and deeper than the mind prefers. You don't rip the old script from your hands with force. You loosen your grip until it falls. You don't argue with the lines you've memorized. You stop performing them. This is not about becoming someone else overnight. It's about becoming honest enough, coherent enough, present enough to let the observer change. When the observer changes, the script cannot stay the same. Begin with seeing, not philosophically, viscerally. Notice the moments your body reenacts the role before your mind catches it. The sigh you exhale when you open your messages because you already know what's coming. The micro-tension in your jaw at the first sign of uncertainty. The reflex to check for evidence before you allow hope. These are not random quirks. They are stage directions from the old script. Name them gently. This is the scene where I shrink. This is the line where I predict loss. This is the cue where I abandon myself. The moment you can name the pattern, you have stepped off the stage far enough to watch it. Observation without judgment is the first tear in the page. Then, breathe. Not as a wellness trick, as a broadcast. The breath is how you speak to the part of you that does not understand words. Shallow breath says danger. Coherent breath says I am safe to choose differently now. Inhale slow through the nose. Let the ribs widen. Let the belly soften. Hold for a moment, not in tension, but in trust. Exhale longer than you inhaled and feel the shoulders drop. Do this 3 times when the old lines start to rise. You are not just calming yourself. You are retuning the antenna that pulls a future toward you. If you listen closely, the static already begins to thin. Now, bring the heart online. The brain asks how. The heart answers now. Place one hand at the center of your chest and, for 60 seconds, generate the emotion of the timeline you choose to live. Not theatrics, subtle, sincere gratitude for something real, tenderness toward a truth you've been avoiding, relief as if the weight has already shifted. The heart's field is not metaphor. It's measurable. When you feel on purpose, the signal you emit grows coherent enough for the field to read. Think of it as changing fonts in a document, same letters, but suddenly the message is legible. From here, choose one micro-act that contradicts the old role. Not a grand gesture the nervous system will reject, one small, undeniable proof. If the script says you don't speak up, ask one clarifying question today. If the script says you always rush, deliberately walk slower down one hallway. If the script says you are always late to yourself, block 10 sacred minutes and keep the promise. These tiny acts are not trivial. They are keystrokes in the new draft. The field collapses around consistency more than intensity. Language matters, but not as affirmation wallpaper. Update your internal stage directions. Replace I'm trying with I'm choosing. Replace I hope with I intend. Replace I'll wait and see with I will meet it halfway. Speak these lines and then let your body match them. Thought alone is a whisper. Thought plus feeling plus action is a chorus the field cannot ignore. Rewrite scenes you keep losing by rehearsing them differently while you are calm. Close your eyes and run the troublesome moment like a director. The email that triggers spirals, the conversation where you vanish, the invitation you always decline. See it begin and then pause it. Breathe, drop your shoulders. Soften the tongue from the roof of the mouth. Let the heart warm a few degrees. Now inside that steady state, choose one new line, one new gesture. Open the message and answer with clarity instead of apology. Say the sentence you always swallow. Accept the invitation with boundaries. This is not fantasy, it is memory in advance. When the real scene arrives, your body will recognize the new choreography and follow it. Curate your props. Scripts are reinforced by what surrounds you. The tabs you open first thing, the accounts you follow, the objects on your desk, each is a silent cue that summons an identity. Replace one cue per week. A lock screen with your chosen word. A sticky note where your old reflex lives. Dial forward. A playlist that makes your posture tell the truth. None of this is decoration. It is environmental coherence. You are teaching the room to reflect the future you, so that the room can teach you back when you forget. Expect the protest. The old script will not exit without a final monologue. It will call the new scenes fake, premature, dangerous. Smile at it. Do not debate. Debate feeds it. Witness the fear, breathe once, touch the heart, take the micro act, and let the field handle the rest. Remember, you're not suppressing an identity. You're starving it of rehearsal time. Introduce a daily closing scene. At night, before the world's noise sets the opening act for tomorrow, run a 2-minute audit with compassion, not critique. What line did I repeat that no longer belongs to me? Note it without drama. Where did I choose as the new observer? Circle it like gold. What one scene tomorrow will I rewrite on purpose? Name it in one sentence. Then, pick a single word that names your frequency for the next day. Clarity, arrival, courage, ease, devotion. Whisper it once. Let the body feel what that word feels like. That word is the pen set on your nightstand. When you wake, do not fetch the old book first. Before the phone, before the inbox, return to the breath, return to the hand on the heart, return to the one new micro act that proves what you intend to collapse. And if you forget by noon, you have not failed. You have found the next rehearsal. Begin again. The field is exquisitely present. It mirrors the signal you send now, not the mistake you made then. Understand what you are actually changing. You are not pleading with the universe to grant you a different story. You are becoming a different reader. The observer is upgrading from the self that could only see one shelf to the self who can reach higher. In quantum terms, you are shifting the probability amplitude your system favors. In human terms, you are becoming someone whose baseline is congruent with the life you claim. These are the same sentence written in 2 languages. And there will be days when the page tears in your hands, when grief for the old role hits without warning, when anger rises that no one taught you this sooner. Let those scenes run. Emotion metabolized becomes space. Space becomes clarity. Clarity becomes signal. Signal becomes collapse. If you need a tangible ritual to anchor this, write the title of the script you're leaving on a scrap of paper. 5 or 6 words that always belong to the past. Fold it once. Hold it to your chest. Thank it for protecting a version of you that needed it. Then set it somewhere out of reach. Not burned in dramatic rejection, retired in gratitude. Beside it, place a blank index card. At the top, a new title, The Year I Kept My Word, the Season I Chose Myself, Arrival. Leave the rest empty on purpose. Emptiness is not absence. It is invitation. Over the coming days, fill only what you live, not what you promise. Let the evidence write the lines. And if you are waiting for permission, consider this your last borrowed line. You may change the script now. Not because someone said you're ready, but because readiness is what happens when you begin. The field does not require courage to feel a certain way. It requires a signal to read. Breathe heart, microact. Again tomorrow. Again the day after. The future that felt carved in stone softens under the warmth of your coherence. Somewhere, another version of you has already finished this chapter. Their posture is different. Their phone is quieter. Their rooms are kinder. Their word at night is steady. You are not chasing them. You are meeting them, one breath, one choice, one rewrite at a time. Keep turning the dial. The music you've been pretending not to hear is already playing. Here is what most never grasp. When you change the script, you're not only rewriting your psychology, you are altering the physics of how reality crystallizes around you. The quantum field is not a metaphor. It is the stage beneath all stages. Every possibility you can imagine already exists inside it as a wave of probability. Abundance, scarcity, connection, loneliness, they are all there, superimposed, layered like transparent sheets. Nothing is missing. Nothing is not yet created. Everything is already written in probability. The question is only, which probability will collapse into your lived reality? And collapse does not happen through wishful thinking. Collapse happens through coherence. The wave function narrows when the observer enters with focus, with attention, with state. That observer is not just your conscious mind. It is your entire system, your subconscious programs, your emotions, your heartbeat, your breath. This is why repeating affirmations while your body vibrates in fear fails. The field is not listening to your words. It is listening to your signal. Physics shows us that particles remain in superposition, all possibilities alive at once, until an observer collapses them into one state. Life is the same. Futures remain alive until your system consistently broadcasts one outcome. Then the field mirrors it with surgical precision, not because it chooses for you, but because it cannot do otherwise. The field is a mirror. It is law, and here's where most people miss the miracle. They believe they must push reality into shape, as if force could bend probability. But in quantum mechanics, force introduces distortion. Forcing a measurement changes the outcome. Forcing a result creates noise. And this is why struggle never produces the life you desire, because struggle itself is the signal you are broadcasting. To change the script, you must enter the role of a different observer. That means not just thinking differently, but being differently. Brain coherence without heart coherence collapses nothing. Emotion without alignment collapses contradictions. Action without presence collapses chaos. The quantum requires integration, mind, heart, and body, broadcasting one clear message. When this happens, the wave cannot resist collapsing into that script. Science confirms it. The heart's electromagnetic field is thousands of times stronger than the brain's. When the heart and brain are synchronized, they generate a field that extends beyond the body, interacting with the larger quantum field around you. This is not mysticism. It is measurable. When coherence rises, probability responds. You literally bend timelines by becoming the steady signal that leaves no room for contradiction. This is why surrender is more powerful than control. When you release the frantic need to micromanage, you stop introducing static into the field. You let the signal become clean, elegant, undisturbed. And in that clarity, the script you long for can finally collapse into reality. So consider this. Your future is not waiting for permission to appear. It is waiting for you to stop broadcasting static. It is waiting for coherence. It is waiting for the observer who no longer performs the old role, who no longer begs the field to change while vibrating in fear that it won't. Every breath is a measurement. Every thought is an observation. Every emotion is a lens, collapsing probability. You are not walking toward your future. You are collapsing it in real time. And if that is true, then the question is no longer whether your future is written. It is whether you will keep collapsing the same draft, or whether you will finally become the observer who demands a different ending. And now the question sharpens. How many times have you collapsed the same ending without noticing? How many mornings have you opened the same chapter, rehearsed the same fear, spoken the same lines of limitation, all while wondering why nothing changes? How many futures have already slipped through your hands because the observer inside you refused to shift? The field is patient, but it is precise. It mirrors not what you wish, but what you are. And if you are incoherent, saying one thing, feeling another, acting in contradiction, the wave collapses into static, not clarity. The script keeps replaying because the signal never changed. So pause and ask yourself now, if the future is already written in every version, then which draft have you been loyal to? The one where you survive but never arrive? The one where you repeat but never transform? Or the one waiting in silence, asking only for the courage to be chosen? Because here is the truth most resist. The old script is already dying. The only question is whether you will let it collapse, or whether you will keep trying to resurrect it. And this is the moment where the truth can no longer be hidden. The old script is not only fading, it is already collapsing. Every scene you repeat feels heavier because the probability is thinning. The wave is losing coherence. The field is inviting you to release what no longer matches your frequency. You sense it in your body, the tension of trying to play a role that no longer fits, the exhaustion of forcing lines that were never yours. Quantum physics reveals that particles do not resist collapse. They follow the signal with precision. Your reality does the same. When your identity no longer vibrates with the old story, the field cannot keep mirroring it back. The wave collapses into a new draft the moment you hold coherence long enough for the field to recognize it. This is why the discomfort feels like pressure. It is not punishment, it is transition. You are standing at the edge of two timelines, one dissolving, one demanding to be chosen. You can feel the gap, the old identity slipping, the new one not yet fully written. This is the space where most retreat, where they cling to the ghost of certainty. But if you can remain here, coherent, steady, refusing to grip the past, the new script will collapse with a force you cannot deny. So I ask you now, will you keep reciting the old lines until the curtain falls? Or will you take the pen and let the field mirror a version of you that has been waiting all along? So we arrive at the truth you have been circling all along. Your future is not a mystery hidden from you. It is a mirror waiting for you. Every possibility is already written, already alive, already vibrating inside the field. But the page that turns depends on who is holding the pen. The old identity can only keep writing the same tired chapters. The new observer, the coherent you, is capable of collapsing a future that finally feels like your own. The question is no longer whether the script exists. It always did. The question is whether you will stop rereading the draft that drains you and finally choose to collapse the one that calls you. This choice is not abstract. It is practical, measurable, immediate. Every breath is a measurement. Every thought is an observation. Every emotion is a signal. Right now, in this moment, you are collapsing a version of tomorrow. Imagine yourself as a radio, tuning. Every sigh of despair turns the dial toward the old story. Every breath of coherence sharpens the signal toward the new one. The quantum does not argue. It does not delay. It simply mirrors. Which frequency are you choosing to broadcast now? And maybe the hardest part is this. No one else can choose for you. Not your past, not your family, not your fear. The field responds only to your coherence. That means the authority is already inside you. The pen is already in your hand. The shelf of infinite drafts is already within reach. You are not waiting for permission. You are waiting for yourself. So I invite you to pause right now and name the word that defines the script you choose to collapse today. One word: courage, trust, freedom, arrival. Speak it in your mind. Feel it in your body. Let your nervous system taste it for just a few seconds. That signal is already shifting probability. That signal is already writing a new scene. And if this message resonates with you, if you feel the old script loosening its grip, then let this be the moment you step fully into the community of those rewriting their lives. Subscribe to this channel, not because the algorithm demands it, but because the field amplifies coherence when minds and hearts move together. And in the comments, share your one word. That word becomes your declaration, your anchor, your signal. When you write it, you are not just telling me. You are telling the field, this is who I am now. The curtain has already fallen on the old play. The only question is whether you will keep bowing to it, or whether you will rise and step into a stage where the lines are yours to write. The wave is collapsing either way. The pen is in your hand. The script is yours. What happens next is waiting for you to choose.